If you're married, they give you a certain type of coffee, but if you're single, you can just buy a limited version? Hmm? I don't know. What do you mean? Have you been to a job interview? You enter a room, there is one individual, the interviewer, or maybe more than one, two, three interviewers sitting in the room on the other side of the table, and they ask you several questions. Some of those questions are job related, education background related, and some of them are personal, family related, hobbies, interests, or maybe the most important question of all, your salary expectations. Well, welcome to IELTS Juice. We are going to assess an essay about job interviews. The rubric says, employers sometimes ask people applying for jobs for personal information, such as their hobbies and interests, and whether they are married or single. Some people say that this information may be relevant and useful. Others disagree. Discuss both views and give your opinion. Allow me to just analyze the task a little bit further. This, of course, this part that I just highlighted shows us the essay type. It's a three-part essay, so from the IELTS perspective, I know we call it in the IELTS community discussion-led essay, but IELTS doesn't care about our names. They believe there are three parts here. The first camp's opinion, the second camp's opinion, and the writer's own opinion. And these three must be addressed and developed properly. So, what are the two elements? The two camps, before we move on to the writer's own opinion. The first camp says that interviewer at a job interview can ask personal questions and it's fine. The information is needed. While the other camp believes that we must not expect our interviewers, the employers, to ask personal questions. That's personal. That's a violation of a human privacy. If somebody is married or single, has nothing to do with their job. Let's imagine it's a job interview for, I don't know, an engineer for a certain oil company. So if somebody is married or single, has nothing to do with their ability to function and monitor a facility, an oil rig, an oil pipe, or a factory or a refinery. They don't need that information. There is, however, a dispute here. Some say if that individual is single, they can send this guy to some remote areas for work. But if this guy is married, then they usually want to stay around their family, and they would preferably be back home by nightfall. That's understandable. But that is the exact point. That is the discussion here. So two camps. And then the third one, the writer's own opinion. The writer's opinion can fall in one of these camps 100%. You can say, yeah, if we need to ask personal questions, we have to. It's the company's responsibility. They need to know who their employees are, or no. You might say, well, these employees are not your property. You don't need to know everything. You just need to hire their skill. It has nothing to do with their marriage. If they love cooking or hiking, it has nothing to do with those elements. You want them to monitor your factory or supervise an oil pipe or whatever. That is for them. Now, and of course, I just made up, a job opportunity for an oil factory. You can come up with any opinion, any idea. You can be hired by a multi-million-dollar marketing company, by some giant textile company, or it's just a family organization or a family company, whatever it is, it's just fine. I just came up with something that I know the vocabulary. Before we move on, I just need to say one more thing. The elements in the rubric, employees sometimes, not always, ask these future ask people applying for jobs, they are candidates. They are not yet employees, they are future employees, they're employees to be. And the personal information includes hobbies, interests. Hobbies are usually things you do on a regular basis. Interests are the things that you do occasionally, but whenever you have time, you would like to do, like traveling. And whether they are married or single, I see three elements: marital status, people's interests, and hobbies. Or you may say, no, I see two. Hobbies and interests can be merged into something, whatever they do in their free time, and their marital status. But these two elements, for the person who wishes to get a high score at IELTS, these two elements must appear in their response. Without further ado, let's move ahead with the response. Here's the candidate's response. These days, employers request personal information from those who would apply for a job or for jobs. Basically need to generalize, but job is countable, so you cannot just simply say job. Some people agree with this way, and others don't hold this view. Okay, I will discuss these two views in this essay. Okay. Very correct yet minimalistic approach to an introduction. I had an attention grabber, and then I was given some extra information, and then I basically understand the thesis statement, which is the discussion between these two. I still do not see the writer's own opinion here, but it's okay. Again, minimalistically okay. I have all the elements, but what's missing? Simply saying some people agree and some people disagree. You could say some people agree due to concerns in this area and that area, and others believe they don't agree, they don't hold this view and claim that it is necessary or it is vital or it's helpful or beneficial for both parties. Just something as a label of the upcoming elements. I haven't read that part yet, so I don't see that information here. I also don't see the writer's opinion here. We know it's a discussion. We are going to discuss both these two views here, but I was hoping for a bit deeper introduction or more detailed introduction. Let's look at the first body paragraph. On the one hand, on the one hand, those who would have a positive view is countable here, towards this way. I don't like this. I mean, what's this? It's the beginning of a paragraph. This way, meaning asking personal questions from job candidates, mentions several reasons. Firstly, this information, I mean, the personal information. Information is not countable. It's an uncountable noun or a non-count word. We just simply say this. information or the information could help employers to provide new facilities for employees in a company or in their company. They would refer to employers. These facilities, such as a coffee shop with new products or new designs which have come from employees' interests. I don't get this part. What does it mean? Have come from employees' interests? I guess which are inspired by employees' interests. I think we wanted to say something like that. I'm guessing. If you're married, they give you a certain type of coffee, but if you're single, you can just buy a limited version. I don't know. What do you mean? What was the other element? Their hobbies and interests. Oh, your interest is to, maybe your hobby is drinking coffee. That's weird. Or you are interested in drinking coffee. Or you're interested in wasting time chatting with people. I'm a bit lost here. I understand the connection, but it's such a tiny little, very weak and narrow connection between the concept and the example here. Such new changes lead employees to be more active and productive. We are not talking about the current employees to be more motivated. I understand. But we are still interviewing them. They are not yet our employees. This example would work if you have some employees in a company and you, by providing them with some amenities, they are more willing to work, stay in the company and more willing to work harder because they already see that everything they want is right around the corner. So they're surrounded by an environment which comforts them, helps them, provides them with things that they like. If this is the one, we need a better description on how asking a person if they are interested in coffee would lead to the company signing a contract with a coffee shop to hold a branch or open a branch near, inside the canteen or maybe near the company to provide special coffee for the people in this company. Maybe you ask, maybe in, again, it's hypothetical. In the questionnaire, the interviewer asks if the candidate or the future employee is interested in tea or coffee. And that question would determine that the boss, the manager, the top manager, make a decision to ask for a coffee shop or a restaurant to open a branch near the company. It's very complicated, and you saw how I analyzed it. There are steps, there are levels. It should be mentioned here. I had to write and fill in all the gaps here. That's not a good connection. This is not a good explanation so far. They will be beneficial to company in the long run. I guess they will be beneficial to the company in the long run. Okay. In addition, I still believe the writer misunderstood the rubric, thinking that there are employees in the company, and if the company knows their hobbies and interests by providing new facilities to the already employees working, then their productivity will increase, which is not incorrect, but there are steps that you have to actually say. You need to say all these steps in your essay. In addition, employers could have more understanding over employees. Okay, that's fair. How? This understanding would be significant when it comes to issues like the amount of salary and loan. Very generic. Oh, there's an example. For example, those who are married would need much salary, would need a higher salary than ones who are single. That's understandable. That's understandable. Okay, this makes sense. Thus, employers could understand the situation of a married person and, I don't need comma, and will devote more financial resources, not financial sources, to them. Okay. Remember, the opposite is accurate as well. If somebody says I'm married and they get a higher salary versus somebody who is single, then it's not merit-based. And in certain countries, you can sue the company because they are not compensating you enough. They're undermining your talent as an individual, and they're taking into consideration things that are not related to your personal skills, merits, and abilities. Just a thought. So the opposite is also correct, and it is also related to the topic we're talking about here. By this decision, they could increase employees' output. No. Very vague. Which employee? The single one or the married one? When I look at it, I believe they cannot improve or increase the single employee's output. It might encourage a bit the married employee to just work a bit harder. I don't know. The argument is not solid enough. A lot of this argument lands on my personal thought process. So the writer assumes that I know these things already, while in fact, we actually want writers for IELTS to be very clear and clearly mention why they believe in this way and that way. Next body paragraph. On the other hand, opponents to this view hold several claims. They believe that this information, asking for personal information, is not related to work. What is important to employers is skill. And this personal information should not play a role in this decision. This comma is correct. If this strategy is applied, passive voice, present simple passive, to the process of decision making, the income of the company or the company's income, instead of the income of their company, you can say the company's income would reduce. Can you explain why the company's income would reduce? This reduction leads employers to dismiss, I don't need ing, their employees, which would have dire consequences, good collocation, on their families, on the employees' families, not the employers' families, and not on employers and employees' families. like financial problems, or even they might get a divorce if they are married. Needs explanation. Needs, we need details. We need details. How? Financial problem, I understand. Divorce also is understandable. We need one more sentence to just solidify, to help us completely understand the message. It's not there. Again, the writer assumes we know if a person is unemployed, after 2 months, they get a divorce. It's not that automatic. This is not our job to rely on people's understanding all the time. It's important that we go ahead and give better insight, give better details. In conclusion, I believe that in conclusion, I believe that the advantages of having the personal information outweigh the drawbacks, because employees could be more organized in terms of salary and desire. And if these elements are satisfied, employees will be beneficial to the company, will be more beneficial to the company, or will be more productive. But we missed the point. Throughout the essay, the writer did not understand that we are not talking about the current employees. We are talking about candidates for job interviews. And it should stay at that point. You can look at it as, yeah, after these job interviews, some will be selected and they will be the future employees. And if the company knows some personal information, they might be able to provide them with better care. I understand that part. But we 100% focused on the current employees, and we did not mention anything about the interview. 338 words. Okay. I have already expressed that the response is adequately to the point. So we covered all the elements, but not sufficiently. And the writer's opinion and position is there, but it's only mentioned in the conclusion. And the writer believes in only one camp, correct? But the writer's opinion somehow had to be justified again in the conclusion. So that was a bit unclear. The writer's opinion wasn't mentioned in the introduction. It was mentioned in the conclusion. And the writer took a side. So 100% agreed with one part. But when you 100% agree with one side, there is no need to say because, then you try to justify. There's no need. And finally, yes, some ideas needed better development. Some ideas were unclear, really. I had some referencing issues. Some sentences, messages were not correctly connected. There is an overall progression, but we never understood until towards the very end the organization of the essay. We first talked about we just said we are going to discuss these views here. The first view, we didn't know which view would appear in the first body paragraph, which view would appear in the second body paragraph. We weren't introduced to that topic in the introduction. We had some vocabulary mistakes. The vocabulary mistakes, yeah, brought some difficulty for me as a reader. It's almost the same in case of grammar, although the range for grammar is a bit better than the vocabulary's range. Well, all in all, this is a good piece. It's 5.5. The main issue I have with this sample is that even towards the end, the writer doesn't touch on the fact that this topic is about the job interview, not for the people who are already the employees of a certain company. It's about the people who are between jobs, who are unemployed, and they would like to find a job. And in the process of becoming the future employee of that company, they have to go through this job interview with these crazy questions. And we should have put our focus on the questions and the interview instead of making the environment better for employees and focus on their productivity, which are related still, but not very well. We needed at least maybe 3-4 sentences to connect this idea presented here in this essay with the rubric, and sadly those sentences weren't there. I hope you had wonderful takeaways. This could have been a better representative for its writer. There is a lot of room for improvement. I hope you keep working on your essays, letters, reports, whichever it is, and make sure your representative will act much better and will focus on the topic at hand. On that note, I hope you have a lovely day ahead.